One of the quotes in your book was like, don't follow your passion because that's where the most competition is. Like, this is the opposite of normal advice.
So you have a choice in this world. You can compete against Silicon Valley and the software engineers with $20 million of venture capital money in their bank, or you can compete against the person in town that has a fax machine and is making a couple $1 million a year. And you have a choice. You have a choice. Are you going to play against LeBron James, where if you win, you get $1 billion, but the chances of you winning are 0.0001%? Or are you going to play against a fifth grade girl for 30 grand a month? That's business.
A lot of careers are like hot dog eating contests.
The more you eat and the better you get at it, the more hot dogs they give you.
Yeah.
The better attorney you are, the more clients you're going to get, the more work you're going to get, and the less of a life you're going to have. If you're a great attorney, you can end up charging $750 to $1,000 an hour, and you can make $1 or $2 million a year. It is a hot dog eating contest. The better you are, the faster it comes.
What is a sweaty startup versus just a random business?
A sweaty startup is a boring job. You don't have to actually sweat when you're doing it, but it's not sexy. It's not fun. Go up to your grandma or anybody over the age of 60 and tell them your business idea. If they say, oh my gosh, that's unbelievable, it's not a sweaty startup and it's a bad idea. And if they say, oh, good for you, then it is a good idea.
All right. So Nick, the thing that got me stirred up originally about bringing you onto the podcast is like your advice is always the anti-advice. Like one of the quotes in your book was like, don't follow your passion because that's where the most competition is. Like, this is the opposite of normal advice. So like, what are you talking about here?
Yeah, I think make some money first and then use that money to follow your passion. I know a lot of guys who started waste removal companies or consulting companies or, fiber optic cable install or, landscaping businesses or HVAC companies. And on Thursdays now they hop on their private jet and go play really exclusive golf courses. So yeah, I think a lot of people tell everybody to follow your passion, do what you love. And if you make entrepreneurship about you, if you take a selfish approach and try to do what you want to do, you forget about what other people need and what other people are willing to pay you to do. So I feel very strongly that you should be like water at the top of a mountain. Dump out a cup of water or turn on a fire hose at the top of a mountain. That water is going to find the path of least resistance to get to the bottom. That's what entrepreneurship is about. There's no style points for, the difficulty of your gymnastics routine or, how hard of a David Goggins workout you did this morning. Business doesn't work that way. You can get paid really well for doing simple things over and over and over again. So you have a choice in this world. You can, compete against Silicon Valley and the software engineers with $20 million of venture capital money in their bank and super wealthy networks. And maybe they've had 3 or 4 successful companies before. They know how to hire, they know how to fire, they know how to delegate. They're really good at what they do. Or you can compete against the person in town that has a fax machine and is making a couple $1 million a year. I had a part of my book that my editor wanted to take out that I'm proud of, and I fought back. It says, you have a choice to, $30,000 is on the line a month, $30,000 a month for the winner of the game that you're about to play, and it's a basketball game, and you have a choice. You have a choice. Are you going to play against LeBron James, where if you win, you get $1 billion, but the chances of you winning are 0.1%, 0.0001%, or you're going to play against a fifth grade girl for 30 grand a month? That's business.
Nick, it's so funny that you said that. I literally have that as my next note because my partner and I have talked about this for years. We're talking about, would you rather shoot a 3-pointer or a layup? It's like, choose the layup. It's like, so when you say like beat the fifth grade girl or play LeBron, like, what are you talking about here? So
yeah, look, as a business, as an entrepreneur, you are an investor and time is your resource, right? You have chips. And imagine you're a poker player. You're a gambler, and your chips are time. You're going to figure out what hands and what cards and what table you're going to play those chips on. You can go play a game where the odds are 0.001 of you winning and you win big. Like imagine a half-court shot where if you make the half-court shot, you make $50 million. Or you can go shoot a layup where 80% of people who get in this business and stick through this business and are decent people end up getting wealthy.
Yes.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm talking to my brother-in-law yesterday, and he wants to start this hardscaping company. And it's like, I just read the page from your book and I sent him the screenshot, and he's like, why does he say this is an easy business? I was like, because you don't have the smartest people in the world running that type of business. You can step in and you can build a great life. And that's the next point I wanted to bring up, Nick, is like you say in the book, like go into business where it's easy. So like, explain that a little bit.
Let me caveat that and say that none of this is easy.
Yes.
5 years ago, in 2020 when I was rising up in social media and I had my podcast and I thought I knew everything about business. Little did I know that the next 5 years were going to humble me more times than I can count, because business is hard. All kinds of businesses are hard, even when you have competitive advantages. I was telling everybody to be an entrepreneur 5 years ago. The only way to get wealthy is to be an entrepreneur. You got to go start your own business. It's for everybody. I have drastically changed my mind on that over the last 5 years. I think entrepreneurship is for maybe 2% of people, and none of it is easy. Life is not easy. Business is not easy. So your brother-in-law is correct that it's definitely not easy, but it's easier than trying to take a software company and be that one in a million.
Yeah, for sure. The epiphany for me when I was reading this was, don't follow your passion because that's where the most competition is. So it's like if people are passionate about it, you're going to have more competition. So you make the point like, hey, just do something that people aren't passionate about, and it's easier. That was like an aha for me. So do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, like there's a lot of people who start businesses for very selfish reasons. I don't like competing with people who start businesses for selfish reasons because they make irrational decisions. They go on too long. They lose money for too long. They don't make enough money for the stress or the risk that they're taking for too long, period, because they're clouded by emotions. They're not thinking logically. So if you can think logically and you can be unselfish and not care what you want to do and what you want to be doing. And another thing to understand here, Seth, is that like every business is the same once you get to 500 grand a month of revenue. The owner is not on the lawnmower anymore. The owner is not, building the website anymore. The owner is having uncomfortable conversations about compensation. They're hiring, they're firing, they're managing, they're delegating, they're doing sales. It's all the same. It's all the same. They're prioritizing. So as a business owner, every business is going to look the same if you do it well and you start to win. But what's not fun is losing. What's not fun and what sucks, even if you're passionate about it, is losing money every month or like failing to grow. But what's really fun, even if it's a really sweaty, boring business, is making really good money. So you might as well be unselfish and go make the money.
Well, you said the word here. So let me just jump into the question. What is a sweaty startup? Like, this has been your ego, I guess your persona online, and now you wrote a book about the sweaty startup. What is a sweaty startup versus just a random business?
A sweaty startup is a boring job. You don't have to actually sweat when you're doing it, but it's not sexy. It's not fun. And my test to figure out, okay, if you tell me a business idea and I'll tell you if it's a sweaty startup or not, go up to your grandma or anybody over the age of 60 and tell them your business idea, what you're going to do. If they say, oh my gosh, that's unbelievable, it's not a sweaty startup and it's a bad idea. And if they say, oh, good for you, then it is a good idea. Like I went to my, I went to people around me and I was like, hey, I'm starting a moving and storage company. And they're like, Nick, 20 companies already do that. Like there's already a company here we were in Ithaca, New York. There's already a company here at Cornell that does that. It's like, yeah, there's 20 of them that do it, but I think I can do it a little bit better. Then when we went to start a self-storage company, they're like, what's self-storage? That's not a new idea. What are you going to do differently? How are you going to innovate? How are you going to be, what's going to be your moat? And I was like, dude, every self-storage owner I know doesn't answer the phone, plays golf all day, and I've never seen one go bankrupt. It's a good business. Me and my partner were like, hey, how can we be like water, the path of least resistance? Where can we find the richest dumb people? Figure out what they're doing. Like, let's find the people who just don't know how to operate companies. And look, I'm exaggerating. There's a lot of really good operators, and even these sweaty startups. I don't want to make it sound like they're all, none of them know what they're doing. That's not the truth at all. But yeah, it's there's nobody in the self-storage business who's stuck around for 5 years that's not making really good money. I don't know any, at least.
Isn't it weird? Like there's this like aversion to copying what's working. Like everybody wants to be different and try something new and like invent their way into success. But really, like you can just, like when you said there's 20 other people doing it, that's a pretty good sign. Like it works.
Fish where the fish are. Don't avoid the fisherman.
Yeah. All right. Here's another point.
I'll post up if I'm in a bass tournament and I'm trying to succeed in a bass tournament. I'm following around the best fishermen. I'm trying to fish where they're going. Not going to try to go like the blue ocean, red ocean thing is just such bullshit to me. There's a book that's a widely publicized book about, blue ocean. Find an area where there is no competition. Build your own market through innovation and monopoly. Try to find your own little mini monopoly where you are the only competitor. And that sounds awesome. And there is some truth to it. And as you advance and grow a business, you want to have a niche that's, very defensible. But like, I prefer a red ocean. A red ocean is because there's a lot of fish getting eaten. There's money to be made. So instead of having the whole pie, if it's a little pie, I'll take a huge pie and have my own little slice of it. Because
Yep.
if you look at what the goal is, like what is our goal? It starts with like looking at the end. What is the ideal place where we're headed? Some people think it's $1 billion business. Some people don't even have a goal. They're just trying to do big things. My goal was simple. Back in 2012, I wanted to make 25 grand a month. What's the easiest way I can get there?
Yeah. So the blue ocean, Nick, is the only person, you can be the only person that answers the phone. That's the one I want.
Yeah.
All right. So a lot of people earn a high wage, but they only get paid while they're working, right? So it's like you asked this question, you said, like, ask yourself, what is the return in dollars for an hour of my time today, a year from now, and 10 years from now? And like hardly anybody thinks like that. They say, what's the most amount of money I can make right now? And then they spend it all. But like, how can you shift that thinking to like thinking about myself in 10 years? Is this actually going to benefit me?
Yeah, I wrote the book for entrepreneurs, but it's really, really applicable to people who are not entrepreneurs as well. People who are trying to figure out what career to go into. And I have a part in the book where I tell people like, hey, before you pick a job or a career or a path, look down the hall to the corner office and look at the person who has done your job well for 20 years and who has won the game. What does their life look like? There's people who just blindly follow a certain path because their parents want them to, or it's high status, but they don't realize that all the 50, 60-year-olds in that career who have won the game are overworked, overweight, stressed, divorced. They have a wake of just, destroyed relationships behind them, but they're rich. Think twice before you go to med school or law school and look down the hall and figure out if that's a game you want to play.
Yeah, you don't want to win a game that you don't even want the result of. Like win the trophy and you don't even want the trophy of the overweight guy that's overworked, stressed out, and has terrible relationships. That's such a great point. So what's the best place to start? You're a guy just starting off. You're either in your own business or in a career. How can you start thinking about like, 10 years down the road, how's this going to pay me? Or I know like for you, the ultimate goal was freedom. For me too. So like people don't choose that though in the moment. They choose status. Mm-hmm. What's the shift?
Well, I think so if somebody's not an entrepreneur, I'm going to tell them to do one thing, and that's go to your local country club, the nicest country club within an hour drive. Try to get in the gate. If you can't get in the gate, go to a little bit less nice country club where you can get in the gate and go to the parking lot. And there's going to be a bunch in the South. There's going to be a bunch of F-150s in the parking lot on Tuesday morning. Go there on Tuesday morning and see who the first guy comes in. And when he's walking to the clubhouse, ask him what he does. The next guy comes in, ask him what he does. Next guy, ask him what he does. And you're going to have, at the end of the day, you're going to notice that there are a ton of real estate guys. There's a fair share of entrepreneurs and business owners. There's retired doctors. There's no working doctors at the location at the country club on Tuesday morning. There's no working attorneys that are at the country club on Tuesday morning. There's a lot of insurance people. They sell house insurance, home insurance, life insurance, whatever. And there's a ton of wealth managers and there's a lot of salespeople. That's the pattern that you'll notice. There's entrepreneurs, small business owners, retired doctors, retired lawyers, and then there's salespeople, insurance agents. So like very simple approach is like, just do one of those.
Yeah.
The odds are good that you'll be, 35 years old and be able to play golf on a Tuesday. And if you can play golf on a Tuesday, that means you can do whatever you want. You can hang out with your kids. You can, basically find a job where you work for a finite number of years and you can get paid forever.
Yeah. My friend had a boat right off his dock on Tampa Bay. And he's like, I'm the only guy ever on my boat. Everyone else, I have never seen them get their boat off the dock because they're at work. And it's like, what kind of life is that? You bought this great house, spent all this money to have this great thing, but then you have no time. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that. How do you get time? And, you make the point of getting leverage. And that's such a huge difference in life. Like my dad has no leverage in his career. He spent time in a factory and he's not replicating himself. He's not replicating that effort. So you talk about opportunity, skills, people, these are the ways to gain leverage. Like where do people start with this?
So if you have, my question back is always the same. It's like, do you have capital or do you know people with capital? Money. Because it is way easier to do business with money. You know this, I know this, but the new entrepreneurs don't know this, that having cash is a massive advantage. Even if it's just enough cash or equivalent of cash, like live in your parents' basement without having, $3,000 a month or $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month of expenses that you got to pay, kids, wife, house, whatever it is. So my first question is always that, like, do you have money? So Seth, do you want to start with the people who have no money or the people who do have a little bit of money and some skill?
Yeah. I want to start where it's easiest.
So if you have no money, like most of us, like I grew up, my dad worked a job. He didn't own any assets. He didn't own any equity in his business. He didn't own any rental properties. So like we were upper middle class because my dad did really well working a job, but nobody had money to like invest in me, or I couldn't go start a real estate private equity company. I didn't go, work at a country club. I couldn't go start a moonshot business where I could raise $20 million. So I traded my time for money. And this is the stuff that nobody's going to want to hear. There's going to be a lot of people who turn off this podcast and close my book when I tell them that, hey, there's no easy way to do this. You have to start by trading your time for money. What does that mean? Like, you go find something that you can do. And if you have no skill, it's even harder. There's a lot of people with skill where they can go trade their time for $100, $200, $500 an hour. Maybe they know how to take trees down in really dense neighborhoods. They know how to take trees down. Boom. You know how to do that. You make $1,000 an hour on your time. If you have a big ass piece of equipment and a guy on your side who knows how to do it, one tree crew can make $5-6 grand in a day doing work. So maybe it's $500 an hour, $300 an hour. Then there's people with no skill. They don't know how to do anything like that. And my advice is always the same. Go clean something, move something, or repair something. And trade your time for $50 an hour, then trade it for 100. And then when you start trading your time for $100 an hour, you have the money to hire somebody for $25 an hour and start to build a real business.
Yeah. So my friend's son, he's 16, and he just made $1,000 in one day with a squeegee, cleaning people's windows door to door. I mean, he's still in high school. That's incredible. Like, that's a sweaty startup. So, all right. So you have no money. You start with trading your time for the most amount of money that you can because you have a skill. Maybe you can chop down a tree. Okay. You can clean a window. Now, let's say you have a little bit of money. I have some friends in this boat. They're scared to death to leave that cubicle because they're getting that salary, but they've done fairly well. What's the leverage that you'd be grabbing a hold of? Yeah.
This is the hardest question and the hardest problem. Is that the most addicting thing in the world of all time that I can think of, the most addicting thing there is a paycheck every 2 weeks. Because once you get it, you start spending it. And once you start spending it, you have to have it. So it's a really, really tough spot to be in. And I had somebody send me an email that has become a friend of mine. He's like, Nick, I want to start a business. Like, okay, tell me about you. Like, tell me about what you skill. He says, okay, I can do this, that, and the other. These are my skills. I was like, okay, now tell me about your nights, weekends, and how much of that you're willing to sacrifice. And he's like, oh, well, that's the problem. He's like, I got church on Sunday. I play in the band. Then Sunday night we do family dinner. My kids are in. I coach the baseball team, and we have practice on Tuesdays and Thursday nights. I do date night every Friday night with my wife. On Saturday, we love to go to the football games, and I like to play golf. So I have almost no free time at all. I'm either working or doing all those things. I was like, well, how much of that are you willing to like not do in exchange for freedom and leverage down the road? And he's like, I don't know. I can't not coach my kids' games. My kids are really important to me. I can't not go to church. Family dinner is also really important. And I'm like, okay, well, we're done here. Like, you are going to be addicted to a paycheck the rest of your life.
Yep.
Just the unfortunate side. Like, everybody wants the passive income, and there's no such thing at the beginning. You have to trade your time for money. So if you're not willing to give your time on nights, weekends, whenever, you're not gonna be able to hack it. And I think my father-in-law is the ultimate, and even my dad, like the folks who were born in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, like, they grew up doing side projects on the weekends. They didn't coach little league teams. They flipped houses on the weekends. My father-in-law built a little mobile home park and sold it, made 40 grand. And like, these little things like add up over time and give you more and more leverage, more cash in the bank, and make you wealthy over time. For some reason, culture has really frowned upon that nowadays.
Yeah, but like your friend that said, like, I don't have any time. It'd be interesting to see his phone stats and see, like, how much is actually spent on social media versus like learning, or how much is spent on Netflix versus like producing, right? So yep. I think there is more time than what people realize, but they blow it in ways that it's not productive.
Yeah, I think look, if you're making 70 grand a year, you can start working 10 hours a week on the side and replacing that income. If you're making, what's the math? 100, 180, 190 bucks an hour doing something.
Yeah.
And as soon as you replace that income, bang, you can quit your job and you have an extra 40 hours to do what you need to do.
Yeah. So one of the things that you mentioned is people leverage, and I think led the way acquiring somewhere.com. So like my version of this is that you saw like how much leverage you can gain by employing people from around the world because there's great talent, but it just costs less. So let's talk about like people leverage. How do you hire foreigners and get the same level of quality? Like, let's talk about that acquisition. This whole thing is so interesting.
Yeah. So first of all, I think like business is so much about momentum, right? If you would have told me 10 years ago that I would be here where I am today, I would have told you that I don't believe it, and I'd be happy to be where I am now, even at retirement. So it's funny how you start doing sweaty, boring things, and 5 years later you're making real money, and 10 years later you're making more money than you ever thought you could. It's just momentum. Like once you acquire the skills and the network and things like that, and the capital, it compounds. So it's a game of momentum. But yeah, in 2021, I got involved as a minority partner and affiliate of a company that was called Support Shepherd back then. I changed the name to somewhere.com when I acquired it, but I hired 3 customer service reps in the Philippines for my storage company. Went on to hire 15 more folks from somewhere. Before I became an investor, I bought a 15% ownership stake in the company in 2022, 1 year later. March. Fast forward to 2023 fall, Marshall, the majority owner, called me and said that he had a potential buyer for 51% of the company at a $47 million valuation. So the company had grown significantly. It had about 150 employees. It was doing really, really well. And I convinced him over the next month to sell the company to me instead. So I closed on that in the end of April 2024. I raised $20 million, borrowed $9.3 million from Marshall as a seller note to me, and took 70% ownership stake in somewhere.com.
That's incredible. And I know, like, so you raised some of the money from like your friends on Twitter or X, I guess, right? So like you put the whole deal together, and I've heard some of them talk about this whole deal, and it's like the business has done phenomenally well since you guys took it over, right?
Yeah, revenue's up about 40% since I bought it. Yeah. So I'm thrilled. We're making a lot of investments and changing a lot and hiring a lot. So we're kind of, profit is not really up 40%, but yeah, we're rocking and rolling.
So, but like, what does somewhere somewhere is essentially like a recruiting company, right? So it helps you find talent around the world. But like, what leverage does that give the average business owner? Because you said, well, I hired Filipinos to help me in my storage business, but most businesses, like these little mom and pop shops, these local businesses, they aren't thinking globally like that. So how can we use this leverage to help us?
Yeah, business was really hard for me in the early stages of I had a moving and storage company called Storage Squad first. And to make a new hire was going to cost me $40,000 a year. And after, employment taxes and everything else, it was, 47, 48. And then you got a Christmas bonus and you got vacations and downtime. And it's going to cost me all in over 50 grand a year to hire an entry-level employee with no true skills. Now try to hire an experienced salesperson. That's 100 grand plus even 8 or 10 years ago. Try to hire a finance professional, a bookkeeper, an accountant. That's over 100 grand as well. So it makes growing phenomenally hard in the early days of being an entrepreneur. But now I know that I can hire a head of finance in South Africa for $3,000 a month, equivalent of a $170,000 US employee. I can find a salesperson who wants a $1,400 base plus some commission in South Africa. I can find a financial analyst in Egypt for $700 a month who can work magic in both Power BI and Microsoft Excel. I can find a graphic designer for $1,300 a month in Brazil. I can find an architect in Colombia for $1,600 a month with 5 years designing, built plans of construction projects. And it just goes from software in the Middle East to executive assistants in Sri Lanka. It's a total game changer when you can grow and save 80% on payroll.
Yeah. The thing that blew my mind is when I first started hiring people overseas, we hired somebody in the Philippines. I remember thinking like, well, I'm getting such a good deal. Is this a good deal for them? And then we talked to them about it and they said, well, I'm making more than a nurse. I'm making like your marketing agency is paying me more than I ever would have made working locally. So it's like, you're not taking advantage of them. Like, you're giving them an opportunity and making your business more productive. So it's like a win-win-win.
The total game changer is that for skilled labor, like for somebody who knows what they're doing and has work experience in the United States, you're looking at 70 to 150 grand a year.
Yeah.
But the salaries go up from $800 to maybe $2,000 a month internationally for the same type of jump to find somebody 10 years into their career in a specialty, whether it be web development or software engineering or sales, you name it. So yeah, man, it's a blessing. I have 300 plus employees and I have about 20 Americans across my portfolio of companies. And the people think executive assistant. They think like, I'm going to press 3 on Bank of America and I'm going to talk to somebody in a third world country. It's going to be really frustrating. That is not the case if you hire customer service reps in South Africa. That's not the case if you hire operations managers in Brazil or Mexico or Latin America. So total game changer to grow and scale a company. We're hiring executives. We're hiring executives now. Chief operating officer signed an offer to join one of my companies yesterday from South Africa.
Amazing.
$8,000 a month from South Africa.
Wow. So looking back, Nick, you got your start in a sweaty startup. You're moving and storing people's stuff in college. You know, there's college kids go home for the summer. You're storing it essentially, right? And then you figured out like, hey, this isn't the best business.
Yeah. Gosh, it was a brutal business, man. We were in 12 states, 25 major colleges, and the finals weeks all lined up to basically a 3-week period. So we had 250 part-time. We had 6 full-time employees, 250 part-time employees to drive trucks around major cities, hitting stuff, moving boxes. Warehouses were flooding. We picked up 7 or 8 items, stored them in a warehouse, and delivered 7 or 8 items somewhere else, all on the same trucks. Totally freaking brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you're moving all this junk around, and then you think like, well, why can't I just be the guy that stores it? So why are storage units, and then you built an entire like real estate business around storage units. Why are storage units such a great business?
Well, we realized really quick in about 2014 that we were never going to build a $50 million company. And frankly, we were never going to have a stress-free life, mainly spring and fall during pickups and deliveries, if we kept running Storage Squad. It didn't have the potential to go to 10 million of revenue with 3 million of profit. It just didn't have the potential. We were doing 2.3 million at our peak, and we made 450K of profit. For the risk we took and the work we did, and that we'd lose 10 pounds off of our frames in the busy season because there was no time to eat. We were sleeping on warehouse floors, like abusing our bodies. It was just not worth it. So we said, hey, what else can we do? And we realized really quickly that, hey, there's a bunch of storage units out there that are cranking and making money. Little did we know that in 2014, if we would have started buying them, it would have been amazing. And we would have had a 8-year run of acquiring a massive amount of storage. We built one from the ground up, $2.4 million deal, raised $500,000, borrowed the rest borrowed $1.9 million from a bank, and built it. We still own that building today. It's worth about $10 million, and it's been it's life-changing money just for me on that one project.
Yeah. So one of the things that stood out to me when you're talking about this deal is you said, well, I met with more than 100 investors to get this deal off the ground. And you only had a handful actually commit.
Yep.
But like, who are these people that you're sitting down with? Or just like mom and dad and like everybody that you know? Or like, how are you finding investors like deal one?
Yeah, I was doing everything that I possibly could. I was hijacking cyclist listservs in Boston and sending out, unsolicited fundraising money that I was not supposed to do. I was, talking to all of my dad's friends. Little did I know that very few of them had actual money. I convinced the realtor, the broker who sold me the piece of land we bought the building on, to invest 125 grand into the project. So I was doing anything and everything I could to raise the money. Took about 100 meetings, got 6 investors. My dad was one. He didn't tell me, but he mortgaged the house that I grew up in to do that deal. I'm so glad I didn't know that, because it ended up being a very stressful deal. We went way over budget. But once we got it up, and then convincing a bank to lend us the money was another thing. We went to 8 or 10 banks, and Tompkins Trust Company and Jason Moore in Ithaca, New York. I still write him a thank you card every year, because he took a chance on a 25-year-old that he never should have took, but it's been an amazing run. So yeah, we built that building, bought the building across the street. So we were all in on that project for about $2.9 million. We refinanced it 2 years after that at a $5.2 million valuation and pulled over $2 million of cash out of that deal. our investors wanted to stay in. So my partner and I got $1 million each of tax-free money. We bought a $600,000 portfolio in Erie, Pennsylvania. We bought another one, a $500K property in Pittsburgh. We bought one in Shippenville. We bought, just went around, started buying a couple buildings in 2018, 2019, and increased revenue significantly at a lot of them. And it was on. So then we started raising capital, and today we own 63 properties. We raised $40 million. We bought $105 million worth of real estate.
So you prove the model with your build, and then you say, hey, this is pretty great. Let's take this money out. And now that you've built it, you have all this confidence. Now you're pouring gas on the fire. You're saying, well, I have total confidence in this because I've done it so many times. I'm going to raise money and continue to buy this stuff.
Yep.
Fast forward a few years and you've increased your net worth. I mean, you tell the story about you sell Storage Squad and you don't really get that much. I mean,
it was 1.7 million. We gave $100,000 to one of our main guys there to stay on for a year because the business was nothing without our main guy. We had no contract in place to give him any cash. We kind of made that happen, which I still feel great about. So my partner and I made 1.6 divided by 2 minus tax. We made about $500,000 each.
Yeah. So $500,000. Fast forward to you're 35 today, worth $50 million. That's incredible because
net worth is a moving target. I have no idea what I'm worth now because my equity in all these deals. My equity in all these storage properties is maybe worth, if we went back to a low interest rate environment, maybe worth $15 to $17 million. The PE firm, the cash on hand is maybe another $4 or $5 million. Then we have equity in 2 businesses that are really growing. One is somewhere.com and the other one is recostseg.com.
Yeah. So that's an incredible run because you didn't start that very long ago. So that's like very inspiring, I guess, for some of these guys that are like, maybe it's too late. I only have maybe 10 years left in my career or whatever it is. It's like you can make a lot of difference really, really quickly. Like you went from maybe 800,000, pay tax. Now you're down to 500,000. So you went from 500,000 in what year to now well over 20 million, 30 million, maybe 50 million, depending on valuation.
Yeah. But look, I mean, when I started that business in 2011 and bought a $1,500 cargo van off Craigslist that had rusty panels,
doesn't feel
like I was getting laughed at. Like people thought I was crazy. Even my dad was like, Nick, I sent you to an Ivy League school and you're going to start a moving company. Your buddies are going to get jobs at Goldman for 80 grand and they're going to be making $500,000 a year 10 years from now. Like I support you, but like this is unique. Like this is a different approach here. So and then 3 years in, man, I was living in an apartment in Chicago that my business partner's great uncle had passed away and the place was a mess. And we lived in it rent free for a year to like renovate the property in half of our time. So, and we ate freaking ramen noodle and drank like a ration number of, Keystone Lights on Friday and Saturday because we didn't have any money. So that was 3 years in. Like how many people would keep going? So yeah, crazy.
Well, I mean, I understand that the sacrifices there, we like the people that have made it to this side of it and found that freedom all kind of had to go through that at some point, but it is possible. And that's the cool part. Like the big aha for me when I, started meeting with my first mentor was he just showed me that making $1 million is possible. I don't care what it takes. I can do it. Right.
Yep.
That's awesome. Here's a quote from you, Nick. I just want your thoughts on this. A lot of careers are like hot dog eating contest.
Yeah. The more you eat and the better you get at it, the more hot dogs they give you.
Yeah. And it's totally true. It's like,
law is the main one. The better attorney you are, the more clients you're going to get, the more work you're going to get, and the less of a life you're going to have. So yeah, if you're a great attorney, you can end up charging $750 to $1,000 an hour and you can make $1 or $2 million a year. But man, it is a hot dog eating contest. The better you are, like the faster it comes. Same with being a doctor. Like I really have a lot of respect for doctors. I actually made a decision recently that I'm not going to shit on them on Twitter anymore because they add a lot of value to my life. I know a lot of doctors. I think they almost all have a really great life after the age of 50 years old. But I can't imagine being in family medicine and having back to back 15-minute appointments where you actually don't have time to help anybody. You're going to turn people away if they ask you to do a full blood panel because they want to kind of know if they have any long-term issues that they should be aware of. Like, just don't worry about it. You're healthy enough. Next.
Mm-hmm.
And you do that for 30 years, man. It's really, really sad.
Yeah. And people don't even realize they're getting into it. And, you know, they go after it because they thought being a doctor was like their dream or like their parents' dream for them. And then they just end up eating hot dogs every day. And it's like, I don't really want another hot dog. You mentioned, you know, to have a great life, you only need like 30 grand a month.
Yeah.
Like what you actually need is freedom. So in your life, you're way beyond 30 grand a month. Why keep pushing?
I think I mean I have a really good balance. I'm able to come in and have a ton of fun and work with really talented people who can execute and I can delegate to. I can jump into my companies and I can make changes and really big results come from it. And that's super fun. It's super rewarding. I also, you know, can go camping on a Thursday night through Friday. I don't play as much golf as I would like right now because I'm in the middle of like rebuilding somewhere and, you know, Bolt Storage and RE Cost Segger taking off as well. It's like a very fun time, but entrepreneurship's like hunting. This is a weird analogy, but like you're as an entrepreneur, you're a lion sitting on a rock in the desert and you're just waiting. You're just relaxing. But then when the gazelle appears, you're all out and you're sprinting.
Yeah.
And so business is the same in that like an opportunity comes and it's really fun to like get up, get out and get after it and throw down.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'm still eating dinner with my families and putting my kids to bed. I'm not missing it. But then there's years where not a whole lot happens, man. Like 2017, 2018, those 2 years, I worked 20 hours a week. 2019, I worked a shitload. 2020 was slow. 2021 was really slow. 2022, we worked a ton. It's just, I don't know. So I love building businesses. I'll always do it. My leverage is increasing to an incredible amount where I can make really big impact. It's fun and I'll always do it. But it is really hard to balance it because I'll take on something. I'll think it's going to go great. It becomes stressful. I'm like, damn, I didn't even need to do this. Why am I putting up with this? You know the feeling.
It always ends up like that. Yeah. So
as an entrepreneur, one of my key learnings, like one of my key assets is my just unwavering confidence and energy. And that gets me into trouble sometimes because I think things are going to be easy, but they're not. They never are easy.
So Nick, the reason why I came to know you was because I'm scrolling through Twitter one day and I see like this ridiculous post about this tiny little deck put onto an apartment building. And it was like, I spit my drink out laughing because it was like, who's posting this? And it was you. And it's like some of these posts that you make like are incredible because they just stir everyone up and you get them all engaged in the comments. Like, I want to know like how you come up with these ideas. Like,
well, people think there's a strategy behind it. I'll tell you that there's not. I don't gain followers. It doesn't really do anything for me to piss off the entire internet about something.
But like you just have a sense of humor. Like
I have a weird sense of humor for sure. I'm a pick. Like my sister, when she was going, women between the ages of 10 and 13, like get really crazy from hormone changes. I picked on her. Never cruel, but like I couldn't help myself. She was acting crazy, so I would pick on her. The same thing is true for Twitter. There's a lot of freaking mentally unstable, crazy people. And I can't understand. It doesn't register with my brain that somebody can actually get upset, really physically upset at what a stranger sitting in Athens, Georgia, in his basement writes in 280 characters on Twitter. So when that happens, I get a kick out of it. I think it's hilarious and I can't stop. I should probably do less of it, but yeah, I got a weird sense of humor.
Well, you got my attention because it was just like, this guy gets it. You know, he sees the world through that funny lens because from my perspective, Nick, it's like that's the kind of stuff that I'm saying to my wife in her ear, but I don't want anybody else to hear. Or like there's not many people, like everyone has these thoughts, or like my friends do at least, but no one says it out loud. So it's like Nick's speaking to my heart here. So I thought it was hilarious. So Nick, give me something controversial. What do you got?
Oh man, did you see my tweet from yesterday that got a lot of people really worked up?
I don't know which one was it?
One about the controversial things I believe.
Oh man, which one really got
this? This is a great conversation starter. Even just promise me that you're not gonna. So I'll drop it right here in the chat. You can put this in the show notes if you want to.
Yeah.
Basically, I just said 25 things that I kind of disagree with mainstream on, Like, here's 25 things in my life that I disagree. I'll read the list. Video games are horrifically addictive and ruining kids' lives. And parents who let their boys play video games are literally playing Russian roulette. I think a lot of vaccines are totally unnecessary and messing kids up really bad. I think fluoride in water is a disaster. I think routine blood work and hormone optimization would make these 30-year-old men who look like blobs actually want to work out and do some things again. I think birth control for ladies is terrible. I think straight teeth and Invisalign is the best investment you can make as a business professional. I think glyphosate, which is Roundup, is killing a ton of people. Large vehicles are 10 times safer than small vehicles. Don't buy the Tesla hype about, you take a bumper in the side of your car. Do you want that bumper to be at your chin, at your head, or at your knees? It's a no freaking brainer. Plastics are terrible. Waiting till 35 to get married is a total disaster for so many people. Non-stick pans cause cancer. And yeah, it just goes on and on. If you want to look at the whole list, you can.
This is amazing. I think I did see some of this, and people get so bent out of shape because you said something that you believe, which is crazy. But
I change my mind. I change my mind often.
Yeah.
The best way to change your mind is to like put some of this stuff out there and let people challenge you. And then when I get together with friends, I'll have very educated conversations. But I've changed my mind on 10 of these 25 things in the last 4 years. And that's one of my superpowers, is that I actually change my mind on things when so many people are stubborn as hell. And I also respect the other point of view on a lot of this. A lot of it's super controversial. The vaccine stuff is super controversial. Like, everybody should be able to make their own choice. Like, I don't believe anything's right or wrong. I just don't love that the government mandates all this shit. But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You can respect it or you can disagree with it. But the fact that people get real fired up and attack me over this stuff is kind of crazy.
I can't help but think like that's helped, grow some of your following. You've built this great following, but like, why did you even start sharing anything in the first place? Like I was reading some of your early stuff, and it's like, you had this great business. Why even bother?
Yeah, and there's a downside. I'll be honest. It's not for everybody. There's been some serious attacks on me and my family and my business on Twitter. You put yourself at risk when you share a lot of business things on the internet. So it has been a massive blessing for me. I mean, I meet people like you. I have a lot of friends in this world and mentors that I never would have had access to. So yeah, the positives drastically outweigh the negatives for me, but it still has its dark side for sure. The phone addiction is real. I mean, try living a life where all you have to do is pull your phone out, type for 15 seconds, and then hundreds of thousands of people are going to give you instant feedback on your opinions and thoughts. That's kind of a messed up situation when it comes to the dopamine loop and addiction. So got to manage it. I think I'm okay at managing it, but yeah, it's not for everybody.
Yeah. Well, you've sure shared a lot of cool ideas. Your content gets tons of action. It's really helpful. And then you have some of this funny stuff that is really engaging. Like, what is the biggest mistake that people make in content that you see? Because a lot of people wish they could be Nick Huber, but like, they don't have the same kind of.
It's easy. So you want to build a network. Step one is to do something interesting. Everybody skips that step. Everybody wants to repeat and regurgitate Steve Jobs stories or whatever and think that people are going to follow them and they're going to build trust. When no, like, the truth, the truth, whether you want to admit it or not, is that every single person on the internet is very selfish when they're scrolling along. And they're thinking, all right, what is this? And what can I learn from this person? And why should I trust this person? And if you haven't done anything, it's why, like, on the stupidest end of the spectrum, it's these Lamborghinis that influencers post on Instagram, because the Lamborghini riles up all these low IQ people to think that, oh my gosh, this person must be really wealthy if they rented this Lamborghini, spent every last dollar they had to look rich. But that's why they do it, right? So you want to grow a following, you want to build influence. Dude, I spent 10 years building a business before I did that.
Yeah.
So people skip the hard stuff, like always.
So step one, actually build something worth talking about.
Yeah. So that when somebody says, why should I trust this person? They're like, okay, first of all, I believe that nobody should blindly listen to Nick Huber. My book, The Sweaty Startup, is just a bunch of things that I believe that I may change my mind on, but I believe through my own personal circumstances that are way different than yours and whoever else might read it. The same thing should be said for online stuff. But if you want anybody to weigh what you're saying, you gotta have a resume to back it up. It's an unfortunate world we live in.
Well, I don't know that that's the whole story. Like, I'll give you an example. There's a guy that I know that has done he's done so much in the business world. He's built massive businesses, but then you look at his content and he's talking about like the most boring, like he's got the worst takes, the most mundane. He doesn't say anything interesting about the stuff that he's done, and it's a lot of cool stuff, but he never says the cool stuff.
You got to have the gift to write copy for sure. For some reason, I was born with a gift to write copy.
Yeah. So it's like selling. All of your posts are from a salesmanship perspective of gaining attention, building trust, and then getting people to take action, which is what you said, like following along. Or
I'm excited to see how my book does. Like, I don't have high hopes because it's not a message that really like strikes with the dreamers. Like, hey, I'm going to build a sweaty startup and work really hard for 10 years to get rich. Like, that sucks. I'm going to go pick up the book about drop shipping or getting rich quick. But the thing that I'm excited about the sweaty startup is that, dude, I don't mince words. Like, I tell a lot of stories very succinctly and quickly. I tell a lot of the lessons I learned very succinctly and quickly, and then I move on to the next thing. It's not where every chapter where I have one little point and then I spend, 7 or 10 pages like repeating myself like a lot of books. So I think the fact that I write in short form translated over to the book, but we'll see how the sales go.
Well, so that's a good point. So I binged your book along with my partner. Like I said, it's called Sweaty Startup: How to Get Rich Doing Boring Things. It's literally the best book I've read in a long time because it's so actionable. It's like the stuff that I think about, but like it's not in a book yet. And I think it will do well for the entrepreneur that has like a real grasp on reality. So I handed it to my daughter the other day, and it's funny. She's sitting there and her eyes light up. She's like, "How to Get Rich Doing Boring Things." And I was telling her some of the stuff I was working on, and she goes, "That does sound pretty boring." So honestly though, Nick, it's written phenomenally well. I gave it to my partner to read, and he's like 110 pages in, like in a snap. And I was like, "How are you this far along?" And he goes, "Well, it helps when the content's great." So
thanks guys. Thanks.
Yeah, really great. I mean,
writing a book is writing a book is a rabbit hole, man. It's hard. Like I'm used to, again, writing a tweet and seconds later I have feedback, whether it's good or bad. Writing a book is hard because I'm in my own head for a year and a half working on this project, and I have no idea if people are going to like it.
Yeah. All right. So I have a question for you from the book. I read it. I've got all my notes and the things that I took away from it. But what's your favorite part of the book? Like, what are you most proud of?
My favorite part of the book is when I'm sitting on my back deck and my buddy comes over with his business idea. I think it's just the most actionable piece of the book that every entrepreneur should shift their mindset on. He's a friend of mine in town. He's like, "Nick, I want to start a house painting company." I'm like, "Oh," and he's like, let's get a beer, let's hang out and talk about this." I'm like, "Okay, come on over." We're sitting on my back deck on Sunday afternoon, and he starts telling me about the 3 months of work that he has done to vet this house painting idea. He has explored buying a couple franchises, had a bunch of franchise meetings, like looked at the financials, looked at the franchise agreements. He has built a website. He has got a brand. He has got a logo on Fiverr. He has priced out rigs. Like, he has done everything except actually pull the trigger and get his first customer, which I think is not the best way to approach it, by the way. But he's like, "Nick, what do you think of my idea?" And I was like, "It doesn't matter what I think." And he's like, "What do you mean?" Like, it matters like whether or not people need what you're looking for. Like, this is how I'll figure it out. And I searched house painting on Google on my phone right there in front of him. And I hit call. The first person who popped up near me, I hit call, and they answered on the second ring on Sunday afternoon. And I had a good conversation. The guy was articulate, and he wanted to come quote my house the next morning. And he said he's got a crew that could start on Wednesday. I said, "I got to talk to my wife," hang up the phone, call the next person, doesn't answer, call the third guy. And he is like very aggressively wanting my business. He gives me a price. He looks at my house on Google Maps while I'm talking to him, gives me a price, and says his crew can be there first thing in the morning to start the job. Third conversation was very similar. This is on Sunday afternoon when people should be with their families. They should not be chasing business. And by like the fourth or fifth call, 10 minutes in, I just hang up the phone. I'm like, "What do you think of this business?" And he's like, "Damn, I don't want to compete with those guys."
Yeah.
So I have a whole chapter in the book on literally how to vet a business idea. Tactically, costs no money. You just call a bunch of your competitors, pretend like a customer, and figure out which one of your ideas has an actual hole in your market. So I don't think that approach I've ever seen anybody take it before, but it works really well.
So eye-opening to think about it like that. So my wife and I bought some land, and we're like, we need to get the survey to build a house. And I call.
I think surveying is a great business, by the way.
And I do too. And here's why. So I called the surveyor's office and they said, here is our list of surveyors that we have on the books. I called all 12 of them. One answered. Middle of the day, none of them answered. None of them called me back. I only got one to answer it, and he got the business. But like, think about that versus what you just said. Completely different. This is like playing the fifth grade girl versus trying to beat LeBron. It's like, this is an easy business to win at. Start here, or easier, I guess. It's still going to require that work, but yeah. So
the guy who did the survey I just bought a new place. The guy who did the survey still does his surveys on pen and paper. Yeah. Not only is that absolutely absurd with today's technology, but there's drones that can do this work on a piece of property that doesn't have a lot of tree coverage. Like the innovation to be 10 times more efficient than a regular surveyor is, I wouldn't say it's easy business. I don't say that anymore, but it's a great business.
Yes, for sure. All right. So Nick, I love your book. I think everybody should read it that wants to get into business, because you speak the truth. You don't sugarcoat it. And I think it's actually super helpful to think about things in an actionable way and say, this weekend, I can actually take action and make progress in my business. So where can people buy the book? Where should they go? Where's the best place to get it?
Yeah. Search Sweaty Startup and buy it on Amazon. You can go to, I think Barnes and Noble might have a couple copies in your town. We'll see. Depends on how pre-sales go, whether they place an order or not. But yeah, man, it's there's an audiobook that I recorded, and I think I did a good job on the recording. So, but yeah, I think another way that people can just contact me in general, whether they want to potentially hire somebody internationally and get a discount at somewhere.com, or just want to ask me a question, they can email me, nick@sweatystartup.com.
And Nick is an incredibly fast emailer. That's definitely something I noticed. So let's end with this, Nick. At the very end of the book, you have all these little like short little nuggets of advice. But one of the things that you said was, you don't need permission. Just do it, right? So what do you have to say about that?
I mean, my entire career, everything that I've done, if I would have asked for somebody else to give me the stamp of approval that I was qualified and ready and in a situation where I could comfortably do it, I never would have done any of it. I had no business renting trucks and renting 35,000 square foot warehouses in Boston and filling them up with 7,000 boxes. I had no business doing that. I was 23 years old. I had no business charging people $500 to move their super high-end furniture out of an apartment in Harvard into my warehouse and breaking half of it and taking it back and being on the hook for it. Then fast forward to 2015, when I had that first piece of real estate that I wanted to buy, I had no business buying and operating real estate. If I would have tried to go work for Sam Zell at his real estate firm after college, I would have gotten turned down because I didn't have a real estate degree, didn't have any experience in real estate. Nobody would have given me permission to build that first building. And 94 of the 100 investors that I met agreed. They laughed at me. And 8 of the 9 banks, or 9 of the 10, I can't remember if it was 9 or 10, they said, look, you are not qualified. We are not going to give you this money. You do not have permission to do this. We did it. Then we bought 62 other buildings and built a real estate private equity firm. Nobody gave me permission to do that. Started a construction engineering firm called RE Costseg. We're approaching $1 million a month of revenue. Nobody gave me permission to start a cost segregation firm, provides tax services to real estate investors. Nobody gave me permission to buy somewhere.com for $52 million and raise $20 million and try to figure it out without a private bank, without an advisor, without anybody to help me that I split the GP with to help me raise the cash.